So what's going on guys, Kid is here and welcome back to a brand new video. For today I will show you the best scrapper PVE build in Lost Ark. So in this guide I will show you what abilities and awakening skill you want to get. Then I will explain what are the best engravings and cards to use for any game content. And then lastly I will show you the best gameplay and even which stats you need to allocate for PvE, so you would be able to get the best results and highest damage possible and much more. So no matter how low or high level or gear score your character is, you can easily use this build and follow the step-by-step guide. So if this sounds interesting to you, then let's get straight into it. So, Scrapper is an agile fighter class that focuses purely on melee kicks and punches. Her identity lets her use skills by alternating between both of her energy types called Stamina and Shock. She starts gaining insane damage skills to clear bosses and large groups of monsters at the end game. Despite so many positives, there's also negatives, one being the lack of ranged abilities. Most of your attacks are extremely close range, and they have very narrow hitboxes and small AoVs. So in this video, I will show you how to overcome this and use it to your advantage. And then lastly, at the end game, we will be using the taijutsu engraving, which will give us the natural recovery speed of stamina energy increased by 300%, so overall this will make our playstyle super fun and we will be able to do consistent high damage and much more. So if you're looking for the best leveling, raiding, chaos dungeon or any other PvE content build, then this is the one for you. Okay, so now let's move over to the build itself, and these are the skills you want to have. So then for the first ability we have the charging blow, and this time we use just 4 levels to unlock the ready attack. And then lastly for your rune you want to get the rage. Then for the second ability we have the dragon advent, and we use 4 more levels to select the moment of truth. And then for your rune you want to get the bleed. Then for the next one we have the judgment ability, and we use once again just 4 levels to unlock the amplified damage. And then lastly for your rune you want to get the rage. Then for the fourth ability we have the death rattle, and we want to use 10 levels to select the quick preparation, single strike and shock explosion. And then for your rune you want to get the rage. Then for the next one we have the instant hit ability, and we use 10 more levels to unlock the wide strike, counter effect and tracking instinct. And then lastly for your rune you want to get the bleed. So then for one of the last abilities we have the continuous push, and we use 10 levels to select the vital point strike, moment of truth and violent advance. And then for your rune you want to get the quick recharge. Then for the 7th ability we have the battering fist, and we use 10 more levels to select the capture opportunity, red explosion and berserk. And then lastly for your rune you want to get the gale wind. And then for the last and final ability we have the iron cannon blow, and we use our last 10 levels to select the overflowing power, quick preparation and advanced enhancement. And then for your rune you want to get the overwhelm. Then as well after level 50 for your awakening skill you want to get the undefeated dragon king. But if you haven't reached level 50 yet, then here's a specific guide on which abilities you should upgrade first while leveling with the scrapper. And then on top of all this, focus on equipping as high item level gear as you can. And then at the end game you should have 1250 crit and 350 swiftness. But again, if you haven't reached this point yet, then try to have around 70% stats into crit and the rest 30% stats into swiftness. Okay, so then the way I would recommend to upgrade this build is at level 50, you will get around 250 points. So this is how your build should look like. But then by doing more and more endgame content, you will get more points. And at the absolute endgame, this is how your build should look like with all the 412 skill points. So at the start, you use the 252 point build. And then by leveling up and completing quests, you will get more points. So just keep on improving your skills and getting higher tier runes as well. So then let's move over to the engravings, and you want to get the ultimate skill taijutsu. This engraving will massively increase the natural recovery speed of damage of your stamina skills while reducing the damage of your shock skills by 30%. You can't really play this build without this engraving, so make it your priority to get this engraving as fast as you can. But overall this will give us the ability to use a lot more abilities a lot more often, which will increase our overall damage and much more. So then for the second engraving we have the adrenaline, and this engraving will provide a additional source of crit rate and attack power. And the stacks are easy to upkeep since you can spam your stamina skills 24/7. Then the next one is called the Master of Ambush, and we want to get this engraving because 5 of our 6 damage skills have a back attack property. This becomes a good choice but forces you to always try to get behind the enemy to get the back attack damage increase. Then for the 4th engraving, you want to get the Keen Blunt Weapon. This engraving is a good option if you manage to get more than 65% higher crit rate. So then you will get your additional crit damage, which will boost your overall damage capabilities. Then the next one is called the Grudge, and this is more advanced engraving that is recommended for tier 3 content. This Grudge is the most efficient engraving against mobs, and you will get your damage increased, but in return you will take 20% more damage. So when you get to the very end game content, which is called the tier 3, then get this engraving, and before using it, get it to at least level 2, because at level 1 this engraving is not that efficient. And then for the last engraving, we have the Cursed Doll, and this is a significant attack power increase at the cost of 25% healing penalty. This penalty can be offset by paying more attention on dodging red AoE circles and by using healing potions more often. So then in a quick summary, I would recommend to get the top 3 engravings first and then the bottom 3. And then last but not the least, let's move over to your cards. And you want to get the Armen, Syria, Solas, King Tyrene, Carmen, and Delaine Armen. In general, these cards are an endgame system for maximizing your character, so you don't have to get them right away. But these specific cards will optimize your damage output in PVE even more. I did bunch of testing for this build and this was the best and most optimized card set. Okay, so then moving over to the gameplay, and if you have played this class while leveling, you will be very familiar with the skills, so I will just try to give you a short description. So then for the first ability, we have the Charging Blow, and this is a low cooldown mobility skill for engaging and disengaging a fight. It will as well provide a 3-second attack power buff to yourself on a successful hit. Then the next ability is called the Judgment, and the skill applies a debuff to the enemies called Amplified Damage. I would strongly recommend to reapply this debuff every 8 seconds, so you and your teammates will be able to do crazy amount of damage. Then the next 2 abilities called the Dragon Advent and Death Rattle are really good damage skills that will do high damage and mainly stagger your enemies. Then for the next 2 abilities, we have the Iron Cannon Blow and Battering Fists. These are your main 2 biggest damage dealers, and especially if you can get behind your target for increased back attack damage, then you will do super high damage numbers. Then for one of the last abilities, we have the Continuous Push, and this is a holding skill that lets you move and attack an enemy at the same time. It will grant you a increased damage reduction with each hit over its duration. And then for the last ability, we have the Instant Hit, and this is a quick head attack skill with a tiny dash that can be used to counter attack the enemy. And then last but not the least, for your Awakening skill, we have the Undefeated Dragon King. And when using this ability, suddenly 2 dragons will emerge from the ground, obliterating all of your enemies and doing massive amounts of damage. I usually use the skill for endgame bosses or if bunch of mob groups start overwhelming me, so then I use the skill and clear whole rooms worth of monsters. Okay, so then let's take a closer look at your best skill rotation, and first of all, it is important to position yourself at the back of the enemies to gain that 10% crit rate and plus 5% damage bonus for your attacks. So the highest damage rotation is at the beginning to initiate the fight with your Charging Blow ability. Then in the next 3 seconds, use your Iron Cannon Blow and Battering Fists. Then now let's activate your Judgment skill, and then afterwards we want to use the Death Rattle, Instant Hit, and we finish it off with the Dragon Advent. So now at this point most of your skill should be on cooldown, which is where the Continuous Push comes into play. This ability acts as a filler skill, allowing your other cooldowns to come back during its cast time. So reapply your damage buff from the Charging Blow ability, and then fully channel your Continuous Push skill on the enemies, and by this point most of your abilities should be back up. So we repeat the same process, and that's about it. The general idea behind the gameplay is to have a constant line of attacks with minimal downtime. So what we did in this rotation is at the beginning of the fight, by using the Charging Blow we gained a plus 15% attack power buff for the next 3 seconds. So then we quickly used our 2 abilities to deal damage. Then afterwards we used our Judgment ability that applies a debuff on your enemies for the next 8 seconds. And then we used most of our high damage dealers. Then at this point our rotation ended, and while waiting for our skills to come back up, we used the Continuous Push that while holding the ability will perform bunch of hits that can stack up to 10 times, and each time you will get reduced damage incoming from the enemies, so this is a great ability to use while waiting for the cooldowns, and that's about it. So now for my last and final conclusions for this build. First of all, the ultimate skill taijutsu is the engraving that his build is made around, so get it as soon as you can to at least level 1. Then second of all, no matter what skills you use, always remember to keep reapplying the debuffs on the enemies and buffs on yourself by using the charging blow and judgment abilities. Then as well for the scrapper in PVE, it's important to position yourself at the back of the enemy as much as possible, since most of your skills benefit from the back attack bonus of 10% crit rate and 5% damage increase. And then lastly, in the endgame, it is very important to counter the boss skills, so remember to use your instant hit ability to counter attack the enemy, and that's about it. So I really do appreciate everyone for watching guys, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any suggestions, feedback or other good Lost Ark PvE classes that you would like to see in the next video, then feel free to leave your comments in the comment section down below. And while you're doing that, please click like, subscribe and enable that notification bell, so this way you could support the channel and you won't miss any more amazing content from me. With all this said, you have an amazing day and I will catch you in my next video. So take it easy, peace.
Yo, I ain't here